with Mix and I, we trust each other.
Yeah.
Right? And we disagree sometimes.
Of course.
My perspective as the manager, the business guy is that, okay, it's your art, right?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, right? And I take no ego in this. At the end of the day, I'm gonna present what you decide, that's how we're gonna roll.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's your art.
Yeah.
Right? So he trusts me to tell him the truth. I trust him to do the same.
Right.
Right? And we know our word is bond. We used to say, yo, my word is bond. Right? Well, what does that mean? Right?
Yeah.
You know, what you say is what you do, and that's what you follow through on.
Right.
And if something happens where you have to make an adjustment, you make the adjustment, but you communicate.
Yeah.
Right? And so with he and I, man, we just, and here's the funny thing, man. 30 some odd years later, I've never signed a contract with Mix.
And I wanted to go to that next.
Right? We don't have a contract. What we have is our word, we have our handshake, right? And we have our honor, right? And that's what matters, man. I mean, I've signed contract with other artists who are just gone, right? Or they just didn't do what they said we're gonna do or what have you, right? And so I think that's what's unique about our relationship, right?
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up. And which takes me to contracts. You always used to say, L, what is in the contract? No, but what they're saying is that, okay, that's great. But what is in the contract?
Right.
What? That, you shared that you were just a nerd, you kind of like you deviled in the details, you question all of these things.
Yeah.
That level of granularity, right, in these moments where you're handling plenty of money, decisions that will impact you for years, decades, while we have, maybe a helicopter over us or whatever that is.
All good, man.
And when do you know in the negotiation when to give and when to take, or when to push and when to pull back? Because I think that's something that either a lot of managers, a lot of artists who are managing themselves now, or they have people that are close to them, because you'll see that a lot more now, right? I think that advice is really important to hear for a lot of folks. I'd love to hear what what informs that decision for you.
So you're right. I always say to you, right, what's in the contract? What does the contract say?
Yeah.
Right? Because at the end of the day, when you're dealing with business in general, certainly when you deal with the music business, if there's a dispute, the solution to that dispute is the agreement that you have.
Right.
Right? So it's important to make that agreement clear and proper, right? And understand what's in that agreement. So if something comes up, the judge is going to say, what does the contract say? It's the first thing they're going to do, look at the contract, right? So I always make sure the agreements are proper.
Yeah.
I know everything that's in every agreement, whether it's 6 pages or 250 pages, man.
Yeah.
I'm there looking through all that shit, asking all the questions, right? So that's the key thing. And I forget the direct question that
No, what you were saying, the next part of it was, when do you know when to pull back and when to push?
Yeah.
Because a lot of people, you'll see a contract and it says, I'll give you $100,000 and this X, Y, and Z. You're like, oh, they're giving me the money. If I ask for 120, it might go away.
Yeah.
You know, like, or more, or whatever the number. I'm just using a number just for fun, but what is that, in you? Where do you know?
Look, it's not to be kind of like dismissive of anything else, but it's kind of an art, man, right? It's kind of an art, right? And it's also standing on principle, right? If you truly believe you deserve 80% of something and you're being offered 40% of something, why would you accept 40% because you're afraid that it's going to go away? If you really believe you deserve 80% of something, then the principal thing to do is work towards getting that 80%.
Right.
Now, I'm not saying you don't take 75. I'm just saying, not gonna settle for that when this is what is deserving, right?
Right.
And so that's my approach. The other thing that I look at, and Mix and I are really, really in sync on this, is like, look, if you're pushing for something that you believe in, right, you might not get it. Are you willing to walk away?
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Are you willing to walk away?
Yeah.
Right? And so I'll give you an example. When we were negotiating with Rick Rubin back in the day, man, Mix had come out of a lawsuit. We were at the Century City Plaza Hotel, one of those in there. And he and George Dracolias came up to the room. It was like 11 o'clock at night on a Friday night. Folks at Warner Brothers are working. Mitch Tenzer's, John Branca's office, they're working. And everybody's working to get this deal done. And we got stuck on one point. And everything else we're in agreement with. And that one point had to do with independent promotion. Who pays for independent promotion, right? And when I read the contract, it's like, we pay for independent promotion 100%. But for me, it was money going down the drain because we didn't control who was hired, right? We didn't control how much they were hired for, right? And so some executive could say, hey, my cousin is an independent promoter. I'm going to take 200K. And this is not ragging on anyone. This is just
this is just the facts. This is just an example.
Exactly. I could take 200,000, give to my cousin or give to this company, and Mix and Ricardo, they're going to pay for it, right? And I was like, no. At best, we'll do 50-50 with mutual agreement on budget and who. And they were like, the label was like, nope. Now, mind you, we're in this hotel, man. Mix came out of a lawsuit, right? We've got one credit card left, right? We're not sure how we're going to get back to Seattle and shit, man. Can we even eat in the morning, right? And I said to Mix, and Rick and George were in the room, and the lawyers are on the phone. And I said, no, we're not going to
not gonna do it.
Cave to that agreement, right? And Mix and I went in the other room, and I said, man, this is very, very important, bro. This is really important, right? Because it is a faucet that if it's turned on, we can't control it, and you will see negative shit on your statements, right? Independent promotion. And then we cover it all. If we mutually agree and we split it 50-50, and I thought that was fair, right? Then cool. And I remember, this is one time Rick was there in the room, and he said, he and George got up and he said, nope. And I said, okay, we don't have anything else to talk about. And he and George walked out, and Mick said to me, what the fuck, man? What just happened, man? We ain't got this, we ain't got that. I said, Ant, let's just be patient, man.
Just let it breathe.
Yeah, let it breathe. This is really important, right? Mind you, it's a Friday night. Everybody want to go home. Everybody's staying late. And people are faxing shit, right? I mean, it's the fax days, right?
They're emailing.
Right? Right?
Nobody's texting
right? No one's texting or emailing, right?
Yeah.
And so and Rick and George leave, man, and we're in there, and I'm like, yo, man, it's worth walking away from. And then probably about 20 minutes, 30 minutes later, the attorney over at Warner Brothers called and said, yeah, okay, we've got an agreement. And I said, okay, cool. No big celebration. No, we got him. None of that stuff, because this was just very important business. And this is what we talked about briefly earlier. The business of music is real, right? And you gotta handle your business, right? Because if you don't,
somebody's going to be handling your business without you knowing.
right. And you're going to be the starving artist you don't want to be. Right. And so and I said, part of it is the art. Part of it is just being honest. Part of it is the biggest part, being willing to walk away. I'm willing to walk away.